Hello, I am Michael Bean, and this is your free acting lesson for myfreeactingclass.com for Tuesday, February the 16th. If you go on to myfreeactingclass.com, you will be able to find links to all of the previous videos, a whole bunch of resources, more free stuff, descriptions of myself and Leanne. I'm an acting teacher. I've been teaching acting for almost 20 years now, coming up. And you can find a link to my website and the school that I run in Vancouver. But uh, these lessons are open to absolutely everybody. And Tuesdays are self-tape review. So we're going to talk about camera technique. And I'm going to use your fabulous examples to do that with, and talk about the different pieces that go into the technical setup for a self-tape. And then we're going to talk about the acting part of it, while looking at self-tapes. We've got a great variety today. We've got some short practice exercises. If you go to myfreeactingclass.com, you will find a link to the practice exercise, so you can download that. It's just basically, I can't remember, it's like a huge PDF, 40 pages or something, of just individual lines of dialogue that you can just choose one of those to do. We also did a whole lesson, not last week, but the week before, about where to go to find scenes. If you're like, oh, I want scenes to practice with, and I don't have anything immediately available to me, you can go and watch that lesson. Remember, the link is just there on the sidebar of myfreeactingclass.com. So that's enough plugging us and our projects. Let's get on with the good stuff. Today we've got a commercial that one of my students booked from a self-tape. And she sent me a link to it just today. So I thought that I would tag that in there somewhere just for fun. It would be better if I had the original self-tape that she sent. So then maybe I'll follow up with her and see if I can get the tape and then show you the tape and the commercial. That would please me a lot. We've got Candy doing a redo of a short scene from Seinfeld that she did last week, and I asked her to, or suggested would be useful to retape. We've got Christina doing some character lines, Jade doing character lines and a scene, and Natalia, who we've seen a bunch of tapes from, doing like a very particularly challenging one in terms of like bizarre physicality. And so I'm excited to show you that one as well. So without any further ado, let me start with Candies. So the background, nice neutral background, right? We're seeing head and shoulders. Candy, I've reflected this to you before, but we can definitely, there we go. So you started a little bit back, and then you see actually came up closer, into more head and shoulders. Really, we don't need to see any space on top of your head. It's best, if you're taping with the phone, it's always best to set it up horizontally like she has here. I think you know this from last week, Candy, and maybe it's just a function of your setup. It is basically inconvenient for you to change, but this bright spot that is right in the top right corner, is distracting for me. I would say that if you can just physically move your camera a little closer to you, even if it means you have a little bit less room to move, if we can take this bright spot out, then we'll just be more focused on your eyes. A little bit more eye light if you were doing a self-tape. Obviously for practice exercises, it's not that big a deal. But you see there's a little bit of light reflected in her eyes there. And if there was more of that light reflected in her eyes, like you can see in my tape here, I've got a ring light that's basically like right in front of me. It's that little dot of light that makes you look alive on camera. Her eye line, the line between her eyes and what she's looking at, is very close to camera. She's got her reader, the other person who's saying all the other lines, very close to camera. So that's eye line, frame, that medium close up. The eye light, background. That's most of the technical things that you need to set up. And a reminder that self-tapes absolutely don't have to be perfect. You don't need a perfect setup to get their attention. You just want to keep their focus on you and your acting as much as humanly possible. So here is Candy's chip dip scene.
What are you doing? What? Did you just double dip that chip? You double dipped the chip. Double dip? What are you talking about? You dipped the chip, you took a bite, and you dipped again. So? That's like putting your whole mouth right in the dip.
Right. So great physicality, great commitment. The I asked you to play with it so that we could find more animation in it, and I think that you really found that here, Candy. So you really did like take a step further in the direction you're already going. One of the reasons that I want to workshop with you a little bit today is to just see if I can help you go a little bit further.
Look, from now on, when you take a chip, just take one dip and end it. Well, I'm sorry, Kimmy, but I don't dip that way.
Now, one of the things I want you to watch here is physically, is that you are rocking from foot to foot, which if you do once or twice, not a problem. But if you do repeatedly, which you actually started doing it, maybe 20 seconds earlier in the scene, then it becomes distracting. It becomes sort of a nervous actor habit. And it's one of those things that's really worth noticing because it's actually physically not very much movement at all. So it can be difficult to notice because in your life it's a complete non-issue, but when we're zoomed into that medium close-up, you're sort of rocking from one side of the frame to the other, and it becomes much more significant. It basically, you are, unless it's helping your story in some way, then I think that repetitive movement typically reads as habitual, and you want to notice it so that it happens once and you're like rock, oh, I'm doing the thing, and then you just stop and nobody even notices. That's the process going on behind the scenes.
Well, you don't, huh?
This is great. The intensity there, physicality, right? Bringing your hands into the shot.
Give me the chip! Give me the chip!
Nice. Good. And you took the note from last time about giving yourself some resistance at the end there. And so I thought, Candy, that was nicely effective. I would just say, make sure anytime you are miming using pretend objects, keep them below the frame. I would say still like reaching for the chip up here. Not only does it not make sense, I mean, I suppose maybe if he's got the chip by his face, but like keep it better to do it down here just so that you don't end up looking weird, right? So sometimes somebody will be like, but no, the scene is like that. And it's like, yeah, well, but if it's an audition, you change it, like alter the scene in a way that will make you look better, because the whole point of an audition is just for you to look better. Whereas if you don't change the story, then like making those kind of little tweaks is just you being awesome and like kind of just showing yourself off a little bit better. So I want to work this very first line with you.
What are you doing?
And then I want to talk to you about sort of where the scene peaks. So let's see if oops. And so let's see if we can get the internet to work for us. There we go. Good. So Candy, can you hear me okay? Okay. We'll come back to you. So maybe I will.
Hello.
Hi,
Sorry, my internet keeps like stopping at different spots, so I didn't know if I should switch to my phone or not.
You're fine.
Am I okay right now?
I can hear you even if I can't see you. So so that line, what are you doing? Just say the line, what are you doing?
Oh, you're cutting out. Okay, let me switch to my phone. I'm sorry.
Come back. It's okay. We've got more to look at.
Sorry.
It's all good. Don't worry about it. Technology, we'll all run into it. Let's look at Christina's. And so, Kendi, what I'll say is that, I'm interested in seeing if we can give you an even stronger opinion on the very first moment of the scene, and then I'm curious about where the arc of the scene is. Basically, where does it peak? Where is it like the strongest? Because right now the scene still reads as like fairly casual off the top. Whereas I think that even if she's being very restrained because she's at a funeral and she doesn't want to like make a big scene, that we need enough going on underneath that restraint that watching you trying to restrain it is interesting. Whereas right now the scene still reads as like fairly casual, and you get to that really animated point. And so I'm curious about like, can we start with that strong opinion, and then at the moment where the scene peaks, where you're like, yeah, this is as crazy as it gets, can you go even further? Like what does it sort of too much look like? And I think that that can be useful for exploration. Now, speaking of what does too much look like, I asked Christina to like, keep experimenting and try, find something. And so she went as far as she possibly could with moment before and moment after. Like 40 seconds, one line. Is it too much? Yeah, it totally is. But that's the exercise. It's to practice and learn. So let's watch Christina's scene here. God, where have I got it? There we go. Right, strong, clear opinion about where she is. Incidentally, the setup here is great. Neutral backdrop, eye light, head and shoulders. Right, so she's her frame is good, her eye light is good, her eye line is good, her backdrop is good. One of the reasons that I think that this doesn't quite work, Christina, and it's really good that you're taking these extra risks because it gives me a chance to talk to you about them, is that because you are not making sound, right? I think that without sound or without some kind of ad lib, without something that keeps us engaged, then it looks a little bit like you're just sort of miming your way through the top of the scene. And I think that you would have been better served to add like, hey, huh? Oh, like just something, those little human sounds, like a little word. I think that it's always okay to add those to a scene, especially at the top of it. It's going to help tell the story in there that's in a way that is more clear. Suddenly Christina just did something technical there, that I thought she did really well, which is that she pretended to have somebody else hand her a thing. Now I assume that that was either in her hand the entire time, which totally works, right? You've got it in your hand and you just reach forward like, oh, hey, here's the thing that I've just been handed. Or it was physically on an object that was sort of there in the direction of her eyeline. But either way, because of the way she brought it back into the shot, it gave us the impression that it had been handed to her. And I think that sort of physically, visually is a good way to tell that piece of the story. But do you hear what I mean about it seeming kind of mimey because you're just so utterly silent now for 22 seconds of scene?
That's the last time I trust you.
Great. So Christina, I love how emotionally committed you are. Like I said, technically you were very well set up for it. I would encourage you with your character line for next week, to basically these like soft, sad, sensitive, inward. You've done several of those now, so my guess is that those are just like more comfortable. Those are when you're like, ooh, I'm thinking about like what do I want to do acting wise. That's what sort of your first thought is, and so now I would say stretch a little bit. Let's see, something that is like big, strong, clear opinion or reaction, that is not that. And so if you're ever stuck, you can always do like happy, sad, uh, what is it? Happy, sad, scared, angry, ashamed. Right? Like you can always pick one of the big five. And then if you want more detail, the really, like, the world is full of resources at this point. Like you go onto a list of the Mark Brackett ruler list that has like sort of a list of feelings. Any number of acting resources, you go and you put like list of feelings. If you're having trouble going like, wait, what are those strong feelings or opinions? I don't use that exercise very much, but I know that some students find it really useful. Basically, if you draw a blank, if you're like, oh, right, especially those moments where you can choose anything, I think are the moments that are most likely to involve a freeze response, where you're like, choose anything, Candy, and Candy's like, and like her mind just completely blanks in that moment. That's where it can be useful to like just have a giant list of feelings and be like, oh right, that one and that one, and then I got to like make them make sense. I can't just put them on my face, but anything to sort of prompt the imagination, like writers use writing prompts, they can be feeling prompts, for actors. But I would love to see you do one where you uh, get very angry, for instance, or one where you're convincingly trying to find something for yourself where you're legitimately overjoyed, and still trying to be honest as yourself, because that's really hard. And so those two, for instance, are very different from anything I've seen you do and might be a useful challenge for you. I recently took a workshop with an acting teacher from New York named Alan Langdon, and I'm always lifting language from other acting teachers, and he says that might be useful for you a lot. And I just picked it up and just immediately I'm like, oh, I like that, right? Because like I don't know, I'm just the acting teacher. I don't know, but it might be useful for you. Yeah, I love that. Sort of co-research approach. It's like, we're just researching this together. Let's figure it out.
Thank you.
Of course. And thanks for being bold and like I said, going as far as you possibly could with it, to see how much is too much. And I think that if you'd added the ad lib or sound, then you still could have gotten away with that like 40-second tape where you said one line. Hi, Jade. You got here just in time. I will look at your tape next. The new one that you shared with me, again, I'm afraid you shared with the wrong email address. So you either need to change the permission settings, or email me the tape directly, or share with the email that I sent you earlier. But we're going to watch the ones that you sent. I think it was last week. So, boom, chip dip.
You don't understand. I can't do this. No.
Great. So what we've got is like medium close up. This one actually is almost a close up. So Jade, you might want to move the camera a little bit further back from you, but absolutely the right idea. It's horizontal. We've got an eyelight. We've got a neutral, non-distracting backdrop. So technically this is set up really clear. I think the delivery is really honest. And so as an exercise, totally solid. Now, the one piece of technical feedback, which I think I already said to you last week, is that figuring out how to not hold your phone in your hand while you're taping is going to make a world of difference. It's enormously distracting, which you will see in the second one. Now, in the next one, and this is something that I was talking to Amy about recently with her tape, is that Jade is doing that same thing of sort of leaving a space, where presumably like somebody's talking to her or something is happening, but she's really like leaving a good chunk of time for it. And so I wanted to show you the start of this tape so that you can see what that looks like. Right, so that's you see how distracting it is having the camera held in her hand. It would be better, I think, in my opinion, to have it at a not perfect angle, than to sort of have it moving around all over the place as the actor is doing any sort of physicality.
When we go to Morocco, I think we should wear completely different clothes and be completely different people. What do you think of Russell?
Right, so that pause, it's not, I'm not seeing actor pause, I'm seeing the character pause, that it's full, there's some kind of character thought, then this sort of, what do you think of Russell, comes out of whatever the thought is, and so she's staying connected to it and just giving it enough time that it doesn't feel like, well, this actor is like trying to technically move between these things, so really nice in terms of that transition. Jade said that she's working on her enunciation, for the next tape that she's going to show us. So I think that that's a great idea, Jade. I think that being able to be understood clearly by everybody who is listening to you is to the best of your ability is important if you're going out for film and TV roles. So I think that that's probably a good use of your time and energy and attention. You might want to bring your eye lines closer to camera. Right, so right now you're in profile, right? Your eyes are sort of here off to the side, and in general, I would say that all the things in the scene, if you can put them just this side of the camera or just that side of the camera, so that your eyes, the line between your eyes and what you're looking at stays very close to camera the entire time. That typically is not only more flattering, but we get the sense that we are seeing more of what's going on. Like we're like, oh, we can just feel you more. So let's look at Natalia's tape, and then if we've still got time, then I'll do that little bit of workshopping with Candy. Now, for fun, let me show you what this the breakdown looked like. So good. So Jade has just put in the chat window. Yes, bought the Island Water camera and put the phone in a stack of books. Yes. Right? Love that. As a teacher, when I'm like, hey, I've got these ideas for you. And the student's like, yeah, I'm on it. It's like, yes. Oh, it's exactly what I like because I'm just here to back you up in doing the thing you want to do. So that makes me happy. Take a look at this. So this is the sort of the write-up for the audition. Young Gala draws herself on the ledge, muttering curses, keep going to the top, groans, right? So she's drawing herself up a ledge, right? She's like climbing a mountain, keeps climbing up the rocks, scrambles up past her, extends the hand, pulls her up. They stand gasping, looking out at the sea. He turns to her, deadly serious. Now is the time to tell me what you really want. I want you to kill me. Stares deep into her black eyes, squeezes her shoulders, ready to push. She stares back at him, defiant. The moment stretches out and it feels like he may really push her when suddenly he pulls her to him. The lover's embrace, silhouetted against the sky. Like, that's impossible to do in a self-tape. Like, you can't climb a ledge. You can't have somebody, push you. You can't like have the embrace because they don't want to see another person in it. So it's one of those just like mind-bending setups, that sometimes you will get, from from casting, where you're like, what exactly were they thinking here? Like, what are they imagining that people will do? So Natalia emailed this to me, and I emailed her back and said, yeah, well, that's tough. Like, I think it's one of the things that's important if you want to tell that story is to actually struggle instead of pretending to struggle. So put a chair or wall out of frame and climb it, and then pull yourself the rest of the way up, and then just like feel the moment of tension and maybe end by stepping in slightly. So let's see how that worked in terms of the actual tape. She had to do it twice, once with a Russian accent and once with a German accent. I think she said that she just had a friend who has a German accent record it and just copied her, which I think is a great idea for the record. The other thing is that if you're like, but I don't have any friends with German accents, these days you can probably go onto weaudition.com and scroll through their readers and find somebody who is actually in Germany, and grab half an hour of rehearsal with somebody and just get a native speaker, to say it at you, those actual lines. So here's Natalia's tape. Okay. So this is her climbing up the mountain.
Dali. Suka. Keep going to the top.
And so one of the problematic things here, just technically, is that the climbing she's doing is rustling her microphone. And I assume that's because the microphone is pinned to her shirt, just down below where the camera can see. In that case, it might be a good idea to pin the microphone to something that is like physically in front of her so that it doesn't rustle, so that her shirt doesn't rub on it while she's doing the tape. right? So this is sort of part of my, the reason I said it, I think it's important to actually struggle, to like actually struggle with something. And so, you know, I'll show you some examples, you know, sort of just improvise with what I've got around me after we're done watching the tape, because if we definitely get that she's exhausted, but we're not really seeing the struggle to climb, because it's really hard to do physically, you know, and she's doing the best she can with the frame she's got, you know, but I think there's some creative ways that we could bring that in.
Further up.
The other thing here, Natalia, is I think that keep encouraging your reader to just be as simple as possible, to do as little as possible, you know, and to tighten the timing. You know, that sometimes your reader gives you these big long pauses after your lines. And if you take a pause, that's one thing. But if your reader's taking pauses all the time, then I think you're having to do extra work to cover those pauses in a way that's not particularly helpful for you. Typically, if somebody's in class, I'll say, well, if your reader doesn't get their line out in time, just talk over top of them, right? Like so don't wreck your tape because the reader is slow on a line. A lot of the time that works, you know, is that they're like, pause, and fine, you just jump in with your next line. Like sometimes you can get away with that. And sometimes it works for the scene. And otherwise, just like as politely and respectfully as possible, just say like, hey, you know, I don't want you to talk any faster, but can you take out all the space between the lines? And if they're confused about that, if they're a non-actor, just rehearse it. Say, well, let's just do those two lines. I'm going to say, you know, let's go. And you're going to say, you know, okay, where are we going? Let's go. Okay, where are we going? And you're like, no, let's just take out all the space. So you're going to say where, like basically right after you hear me say go. Let's practice that. Let's go. Where are we going? Yeah, like that. Then if you take pauses, you can. So that's my advice in terms of helping your reader help you if they are not somebody who's a practiced actor. Good. So she's made it to the top now.
Now is the time for you really to tell me what you want.
Right. And so you hear how slow the reader is, right? It's like sort of lugubriously melodramatic. Now is the time to tell me what you want from me. And I think if the reader just was as simple as possible and was like, now is the time to tell me what you want from me, then we would be focused on her. That's my impulse there, is that, you know, the reader is just having trouble with timing. And that's come up in some of these previous tapes. And no disrespect, because I assume that it's her husband reading, you know, and the fact that like he is willing to assist her with all of her self tapes is pretty rad on his part, you know. So I'm trying to give this feedback in terms of like, how can he clearly wants to help? How can we help him do that in a way that's as effective as possible?
I want you to kill me.
Okay, so just very quickly in terms of, you know, what might help there. So, you know, I would want to set this up so that I was standing, I think, you know, but right, there's always the option to like, you know, give yourself resistance. Okay, I'm just actually climbing the, oh God, it's hard. So I'm just pulling at myself. Maybe that works. You know, maybe I've got the desk here, you know, and so again, you know, she was, you know, sort of doing one of these, but she could grab the door frame, pull herself up. That also gives me the advantage of then pressing on the desk to, oh, okay, I made it to the top. Right. So just that actually using your muscles, you know, for resistance will often tell that story better. It also affects your voice in different ways. Then I don't have to go, I'm struggling. Instead, I'm just actually giving myself some muscle tension, you know, and that affects my voice in a way that will typically read as more like honest or more authentic than like trying to struggle or trying to be out of breath. So that's the sort of technical thing. I already talked about the timing there. So once she was at the top, you know, if we were coaching this for a tape, you know, I would encourage her to make to really be clear about those eye lines, basically to climb up, and then there's the cliff, there's the view on one side of the camera, and there's the guy who she's climbing with there on the other side of the camera, because they're such different emotional relationships. Yeah, and so technically, I think there's a way to clean that up and go like, okay, I'm up at the top. Okay, like and so then if that's clear, the relationship between like this guy who she either wants to has this very deeply passionate relationship with, and or has like climbed up here to kill herself, it's really unclear. But that relationship versus the relationship with the cliff might be really might be more clear, more distinct with this side, that side. And then I think there needs to be a clear choice about like what is going on. And maybe she had more context in the breakdown, but maybe not. A lot of the time they're just like, they just give you these lines and they're like, kill me. And is this because they're like, always, we have the lover's embrace, and so is it, is this the moment, where like she decides like not to die and she's like, actually, I do want to be in this relationship? Or is this like, is this them that they just have this like deeply passionate relationship, and she's like, if you won't love me, then I want to die, and he's like, then I love you. Like, I don't know, but I think it's important to make a choice about that, because, and I think Natalia probably did, but that it's so subtle, it's playing so subtly, that between the fact that those eye lines aren't clear and that she's playing it so subtly, I'm not sure what her opinion is. I'm not sure what version of the story she is choosing to tell. Yeah, and so if we were workshopping it, that's the next place I would go. Is it like, okay, I'm mostly focused on the cliff. Like, what do I really want? I want you to push me. Okay. And then no, I don't want to die. Like, I want to like hang on to my love, and oh God, oh yeah. We do this every Saturday. I love this, where you think you're like, where I think I'm going to die, and then we have big hugs. Maybe, I don't know. But like finding a version of it, and then playing with it physically, like that's the exploration piece of it. And I've been coaching and teaching for a long time. There literally is no way for me to know which version of that would be the best fit for Natalia and the best fit for the story without seeing it and trying 4 or 5 different things. Students always ask me questions as though there is, like, well, how do you know? Like, what do you choose? I'm like, okay, well, like you make this sort of little cloud of choices that you're like, yeah, I've narrowed it down to like, this, right? There's the whole universe of choices, and then the story narrows it down to a slice, and then the part of the story that fit me narrows it down to a slice, and then like inside of that slice, we got to play a little bit. That if there is a way to just like magically know what's going to work, before you try it out loud, I haven't figured it out yet. Or I swear I would tell you. If there was a secret, I would just give it to you. But as far as I can tell, the secret is to just explore it, from a place of curiosity, and feel into it for yourself. So Candy, because you went to all the effort of setting up your phone, let's see if you can unmute yourself and give me the first line of your tape.
Oh, okay.
It's just,
sorry, is it too late, or it's
No, it's
okay?
fine. It's just, what are you doing?
Okay.
Just give me what are you doing.
What are you doing?
Good. Say, look at me and say, that is disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Good. Go even further. Go, that is disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Good. Now say the line like you said that.
What are you doing?
Good. Now try not to get, like, that's the feeling. Now with that much in it, now you can restrain it, right? So it's still got that much disgusting, but you just can't be that loud because you don't want to get in trouble here at the funeral. Do it again.
Oh, true. Okay. What are you doing?
Good. And you feel how the intensity went down with the volume, and that's one of those actor exercises. Can you keep the intensity up even though the volume comes down? And so that's what I wanted to play with, is that like when you took the volume down, it became casual. You were like, what are you doing? As opposed to like, oh my God, like I don't want to make a scene, but this thing that's happening is so repulsive that I must talk to you about it. Right? Like the level of intensity, huge feelings about stupid stuff. That's where the comedy comes from. And then if I was going to keep talking to Candy about the scene, my next question would be, sort of, where does it where does it peak, right? So that you don't jump, you don't start at 100, right? You like you start at 60, and then like when where's it peak, and maybe it peaks with like give me that chip, but if that's the case, then it's got to keep building all the way through this. And we got to see those moments where she's like, don't make a scene, don't make a scene. Oh my God, I hate this guy so much, but it never drops down to like, okay, fine. Suddenly I'm mad again.
Oh,
Does it make sense? Yeah,
sorry, I think you're cutting out.
looking for
But you were
that.
asking like about the peak or something? Sorry.
Okay,
And I think
I'm,
in the scene,
yes,
oh,
I can hear you now.
sorry, was when he was like, so, like double dipping is like, so, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
what the heck?
Oh, so the peak is right at the beginning.
Well, when
I
it
would say
goes back and forth, and I tell him what double dipping is, and then he's like, so, I'm like, oh, that's nasty.
right. But since it ends with wrestling over it,
Okay.
maybe what you got is like shump, 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 but you don't want to like, basically you don't want the energy to drop. Is my thought. The scene like that. So
Okay.
I look forward to seeing what you decide to show us next week. Thanks for staying a little bit late, everybody, to watch everybody's tapes. I'll get this uploaded, and the fabulous Leanne Lapp will be covering class tomorrow. So tomorrow's will not be recorded, but you will be able to ask Leanne all of your good questions, and she always comes with sort of good ideas and skills prepared. So, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, and great job, everyone.
Thank you.